All right. Well, welcome everyone to our PlantStrong Monday night call. We're super excited you're spending your Thanksgiving week Monday with us, and we know you're going to be blessed by this call because we have our special friends from Colorado on the call tonight, and I'm super excited for them to share their story with you guys because their story has inspired me from the beginning of my business. And Mick and Jenny are just two of our favorite people. Brian and I love every time we go to Colorado, we make a point to see them because they are awesome. And we just cherish our time because we always learn things from them. And they're just so generous and just some of our favorite people. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about them, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how I met them. But Mick and Jenny, you'll probably notice from their accents, are not from the U.S. They're from England originally. And Jenny's background was she was a teacher and a stay-at-home mom. She loves being with her 7 grandkids. She loves hiking and playing the piano. And the entire Daly family, which is pretty crazy, all of their boys and their grandkids all live in Eagle, Colorado, which is, I know, most parents' dreams to have your kids and your grandkids right there in your backyard. And Mick, he was a systems engineer and technical support manager with IBM for several years. He loves soccer. He loves good beer. You don't have that in your bio. I had to put it. He's a big runner. He loves hiking and biking and just being outdoors and with his grandkids. And so they moved to the U.S. and to Dallas, Texas in 1987 with IBM. And I'm not going to share too much of their story because I'm going to let them share it. But shortly after that, they found the Juice Plus products and the Juice Plus business, and short and sweet, it changed their life forever. And I actually met them at my first Juice Plus conference in 2010 in Florida. And I remember, because I was really into running then, and Mick has always been really into running. And we met through my mentor, Kurt. And I remember hearing their story about traveling the U.S. for 4 years in an RV. And I was so amazed that they can, number one, do that, and so inspired that that's when I set a goal for myself to do the same and travel and be able to see the country. And I knew at that point that this business was much bigger than I had thought previously, that this business could afford so much more than my small mind could imagine. And so I just want to share a quote that Jenny shared in her bio. She says, "The money's great, but more importantly, you can't put price on freedom that this business gives you." I absolutely love what I do. And that's how I feel. I feel like you can't put a price on that freedom. And every day I'm more and more grateful for that. So Mick and Jenny, I don't know which of you guys wants to go first, but I'm going to turn it over to you guys to share your journey with the Juice Plus business and maybe some nuggets of wisdom with us that you've learned along the way.
Well, we don't know who's going to go first either, but you know me, Michelle. Hey, Mama Michelle and Papa Brian, we love you guys.
We love you.
And it's awesome that you're bringing new life into the world. New life into your freedom, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really way cool. Okay, so Jenny and I do this together. I wish we could do it as well and as coolly as Jake and Jenna Rude do, because they are amazing, but we'll do our best. Jenny, why don't you get started, and I'll butt in as I usually do.
Okay, sure, I would love to. Well, good evening, everybody, and it's such an honor to be invited to talk with you all. Yes, we are up in the beautiful mountains of Colorado, and Michelle mentioned freedom, and truly this business has given us the freedom of choice. Because we were in Texas when we first met Michelle and Brian. We lived in Dallas for 11 years, but after the first 3 years with IBM, we did not want to go back to England, and that was the condition. If he stayed with IBM after a 23-year career, we had to return to England. Now, some of you might think we were crazy to want to stay in Dallas, Texas. But I tell you, life was good. You know, the swimming pool in the backyard, the sun shines. So I think the message here is timing. We were looking for something, and that's when we were introduced to this company. Now, I'll be honest, I thought seeing Mick's excitement, and Mick does tend to get excited about things, I accused him of suffering from the male menopause, because this was, what, 20-something years ago. So I guess
I was 44 years of age. I was right in that middle, yeah, whatever.
But the other thing is that, and if I can say this about my wonderful husband, by the way, we've been married for what, 46 years, I think, coming up. But he's not, back in those days, he's changed. Back in those days, he was not very teachable. And so another message I would give you this evening is don't try and reinvent the wheel. You know, there is a system, it works. Don't say, you know, you're too cool to follow it, as we were. We sometimes look back and say, you know, it's amazing. We made national marketing director in just under 5 years. And honestly, we mistaked our way to success.
But Jenny, my wheel looked so cool on paper. It just didn't roll too well when I created it.
But, you know, back in the day, we got excited. We went to seminars. We learned a lot about health and nutrition. But we would sit down with people and, you know, talk to them for an hour, 2 hours, trying to convince them that Juice Plus was something they needed. Well, you know, that's not the way to work this business. You need to use the tools. We say pick and choose what you can use. You don't have to become the expert. You don't have to focus on the outcome either. You know, our job is to share information about Juice Plus and help people make an educated decision as to whether this is a product that they want and choose to take. And then I think statistically something like 1 out of 10 of your customers will show an interest in the business. And when I say an interest, it may be that they want to cover the cost of their own product, or like us, it may be that they see the position of National Marketing Director where the average income is 6 figures and comes with an incredible benefits plan, which is so important to these to people these days, you know, to get good health benefits. Sadly, too many people are stuck in jobs that they really aren't happy with just because they get good benefits. Well, as I tell you, the rest is history. We worked hard in those first few years. We made National Marketing Director in just under 5 years. And a couple of years after that, yes, as Michelle said, we sold our house in Dallas. We bought an RV, a 35-foot RV, and we set off. And during the next 4 years, we visited 46 states and eventually decided to set down roots here in Colorado. We built a house in Glenwood Springs where we were for 8 years. But that we were an hour away from our growing family, and we decided we needed to be closer to the grandchildren. So we sold that and built another house here in Eagle. And I tell you, life is good. We make a significant income, but as I said, as Michelle quoted me, more importantly is the freedom that this business brings us. So, Mick, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, let's back up a little bit. So those 4 years we were on the road, we come across people all the time who say, okay, tell us how to build our business while you're on the road as full-time RVers. And Michelle and Brian pretty much asked us that question. And our answer was, we didn't build our business when we were on the road. We had already become national marketing directors and had been for 2 years before that point. But what did happen, which was completely unexpected, was that when we uprooted ourselves, sold our house, sold all our possessions, and hit the road, we honestly were a little anxious. We just didn't know what was going to happen to our business. And I don't think it was arrogance and false pride, but we were pretty big in the leadership of the co-op in Dallas. And we thought, what's going to happen when we leave? Well, here's the first lesson. That co-op absolutely thrived the moment we left. And it's not just that we left, but it's that when existing leadership suddenly leave, it leaves room for other people to step up. And I know Michelle and Brian have discovered that for themselves in a very similar way. And so that's one important lesson. We need to be willing to lead, but then we need to be willing to step away and let others rise up into leadership. And honestly, there is nothing better than seeing other people, both on your own team, but also on sidelines. We love having watched Brian and Michelle rise up into leadership. We love watching Casey and Jesse rise up into leadership. It absolutely does my heart good to see it. But what did happen, as well as the Dallas Co-op thriving as soon as we left it, we went on the road, and I would say 40 to 50% of the time, when we were on the road during those 4 years, we were working with our team, mostly from Dallas West. We had very little, if anything, and we still don't, from Dallas East. But when we were working with team, it's almost as though the freedom that our lifestyle represented suddenly became really inspirational. And so in the first 3 of those 4 years that we were full-time RVers, our business doubled and our income doubled. Now, would it have done if we hadn't left Dallas? Quite possibly. No way of knowing. But the fact that it did, even though we were suddenly very part-time, was also a good indicator that demonstrating and living out freedom, the kind of freedom that people can identify with. It wasn't a lavish lifestyle. If you watch the Barnetts, their lifestyle was probably more lavish than ours was. But it's not that you're living a lavish lifestyle. It's just that you have freedom. Very often we call it the freedom of indecision. Do we move on today or do we move on tomorrow? Where do we go next? Do we go to A or do we go to B? And that kind of freedom is very attractive to people, I would say. But let's back up even further. So Jenny was very kind when she said we reinvented the wheel. She didn't. I did. I was the one. I was guilty. I think the other lesson that we learned in the first 5 years in this business was we learned a lot about ourselves as individuals, about each other, and about Jenny and me as a couple. You see, when I was with IBM, especially those last 12, 13 years in IBM management, I always had a secretary. And so the day I left IBM and the day we went full-time in this business, guess who became my secretary by default? Jenny. Oh, huge mistake. You guys, men listening to this, actually, I only see two of you, but hopefully there'll be more men who will watch the recording. Trust me, don't make that mistake. Don't be as clueless as I was. And Jenny's so patient, tolerant, understanding. She left it a couple of years, well, maybe a year and a half before she finally said, we need to talk. And when I hear her say that, I know from experience, oh boy, what have I done? But the lesson is, when you're working this as a couple, or it doesn't matter as a couple, when you're working closely with someone on your team, understand your strengths and the areas where you're not strong, and understand their strengths and the areas where maybe you complement them. And in understanding and celebrating those strengths, those differences, you can achieve some synergy that otherwise you'll never see happen. And part of raising up people on your team is about recognizing their strengths and helping them to get into positions where they're contributing to the team from their strengths. Because there's nothing more confidence building than operating in an area where you're confident, you make it look easy. Other people say, wow, I couldn't do that. And you go, what? Because it's your strength. It's something that comes naturally to you, if you like. So in terms of team building, it's really important. And actually, Catherine Lee, God bless that wonderful woman, Catherine did a fantastic training. If you haven't seen or heard that training by Catherine just recently, she talks about this way better than I ever could. So if you don't have that, I'll send you a link to it. So learning about your own strengths, learning about the strengths of others. And once Juice Plus started to really gain traction in our business, in our company, in our business model, and once my belief in it became rock solid, because as Michelle mentioned, back in the day, I was a pretty serious runner, and Juice Plus completely changed my performance, my recovery, and my health, pretty much in that order over about a year and a half period. Armed with that belief, I went to work. But the tough thing was that our company was going through some massive changes at the time, changes in the marketing plan. We were taking away the opportunity to make a lot of money right up front, which is really a good thing. I mean, now we have great bonuses, but back in the day, it was really a recruiting machine for those who were recruiters, and we weren't. But as the company was changing, as the product line was changing from what I describe as a very masculine hardware product line, water filters and air filters, over to a more feminine software product line, the Juice Plus product line, everything had to change. Our system that we'd had before, that I was never willing to use, but I finally came to my senses and said, I should be doing what other people are doing, because other people are way more successful than me. That's exactly when everything was changing. But then I discovered something about myself I'd never known, because in the corporate world, and I was with IBM for 23 years, there isn't that much room for entrepreneurship or for pioneering. But I discovered, as we were trying different things with Juice Plus, how to share it, how to build a business based on it, I discovered that that's what I am. I'm a pioneer. I'm an entrepreneur by nature. And that's why I kept reinventing the wheel. Well, suddenly with Juice Plus, we had a need to invent a new wheel. And I was in my element. So you don't have to be a pioneer or an entrepreneur, but you need to know yourself, have good, healthy self-awareness, and find a way to be in your element as you work this business. Don't try and do it like Michelle or Brian. Don't try and do it like Casey or Jesse. You can learn from them, but find out what's the right way for you to be working this business in a way that is unique and authentic to who you are. And by the way, I'm part of a 7-month-long leadership academy that we have going on here in Little Old Eagle, Colorado. And one of our recent sessions was digging deep and discovering our values, our core values. And I would say that an exercise which helps you discover your core values and then seeing how those core values align with the values of this business model, the mission-driven model, and align with the company. Seeing how your core values align with the business's values, that will also help you to figure out how this can work best for you. Okay,
let me pick it up there. You gathered from our story that, we've been with Juice Plus right from the get-go. And I would hate any of you to think that just because we were in at the beginning, if you like, that, we've built a very successful business. So I always like to point out the fact that many people have joined this company in the last few years and are already making way more money than we have ever made or probably will ever make. So there is absolutely plenty of room for everybody. And sometimes we are asked, so what keeps you going with this business? You've built a successful business, you have residual income, more than enough than we need. Well, clearly I would say our number one goal since then has always been to focus on our team and to help them realize their goals. We've promoted a number of national marketing directors on our team over the years. But also, I think Juice Plus it's kind of become who we are. I should just mention briefly, I know I accused Mick of suffering from the male menopause back then, but honestly, I was the biggest skeptic about Juice Plus as well, because remember, we had no research back in the day. We had to do this in faith, and we never took vitamins, as we say in England. So it took me a while, even though Mick started taking it very quickly. I sat back and watched for a while, but eventually, you know, I did see the light, and I saw some great results. I got wonderful fingernails these days, which I never had before. Saw all sorts of things, but I think the bottom line is that at the age of 69 and 71, we take no medication whatsoever. We are fit, we are healthy, and we have to give Juice Plus a lot of the credit. I'd just like to share a quick story with you that just happened today, actually. I was out, I went to Claire's Boutique. It's a little fashion place for little girls. We have a 7-year-old granddaughter. Her birthday's coming up on Thursday. And I went in to buy some little bracelets and things to put in a jewelry box for her. And as I was checking out, the girl behind the counter said, would you like to make a contribution to St. Jude Children's Hospital? Well, many of you will know that Juice Plus Company supports St. Jude. You know, we are the main sponsor of the marathon every year. We raised, I believe, $10 million last year for the hospital. So I was so taken aback, and you know, was able that started a meaningful conversation. Turned out that this girl Sarah, she has 5 children. They're all boys, aged between 15 and 3. And her 11-year-old son, 8 years ago now, developed leukemia. And he has survived. He's been in remission for a year. But the point of telling you this is that this business is all about relationships. I had a wonderful conversation with Sarah. We talked about her son. We talked about St. Jude. I was able to tell her a little bit about the Juice Plus Company. I said, you know, I'm a rep for the Juice Plus Company. Maybe you've heard of Juice Plus. And I gave her my business card, and before I left, I said, Sarah, give me your email address, and I'd love to send you some more information. So, you know, that's who we are, and that's what we do, even today. Just as we're out there doing life, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know whose life you're going to change, because I'm going to follow up with her. I will send her information about Juice Plus. She needs to make sure that her son is getting optimum nutrition if he's going to stay in remission. So I'm very, very hopeful that they will participate in the Children's Health Study. So it's absolutely true what I said. I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do to this day.
That reminds me of something else that usually blows people's minds. So imagine we have several thousand people on our team. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Well, don't be impressed. We've been doing this a long time. But would you like to guess how many people out of those several thousand on our Juice Plus team today, how many did we know before we started with this company 27 years ago? Jesse says 5. Michelle says 0. It's in between those.
Yeah.
2 out of those several thousand we knew before we started with this company 27 years ago. Partly the reason is that we'd only been in this country for 3 years, so we didn't know a ton of people. Also, it's really hard to get people interested thousands of miles away across the Atlantic. We've tried, we've had a few people join us, but no one at all serious. And because we're not there to work with them, that's a little more difficult. But when I hear people say, oh, I don't know anyone, or I've talked to everyone I know, I'm not very sympathetic. That's all I can say. Jenny?
Absolutely. Meeting people all the time. A couple of weeks ago, I was with the grandchildren down in the local park. And guess what? There were 2 other grandmothers there, and we just got talking. And one of them had recently retired from teaching. And, you know, it's so easy to ask. We just, first of all, get into general conversation. But then, you know, I think I asked her what she was doing. And then she asked me, so are you retired? No, actually, I'm not. I have a home-based business. I'm a rep for the Juice Plus Company. Have you heard of Juice Plus? And both of them got my business cards. So, you know, when you're out there just doing life, you never know who you're going to meet. that's where Catherine Lee and Deanna Christopherson met, in the grocery store. And the rest is history. Okay,
we're looking for younger people. And so we often hold up the Barnetts and the Elmores as good examples.
Well,
Michelle,
awesome.
back to you.
Thank you, you guys. It's so inspiring. I never get tired of hearing your story because it just reminds me of what's possible, and that, you know, in a day and age where a lot of people are switching careers like every 3, 5, 10 years and just don't ever get satisfied and fulfilled with what they're doing. You know, we have something that we can do long term that people don't want to retire from, that people retire into, because it is so rewarding, it's so life-giving. And like Jenny said, we get to just go build relationships and make, you know, people's lives better, whether it's with our business or with the products. And obviously this mission has made you guys' life better. Otherwise you might be back in England and we wouldn't know you.
Horrible cold.
In the cold. Well, I guess it's cold in Colorado, but less sun, let's say that. But yeah, we're just super grateful for you guys, and we're grateful that, you know, God wrote your story the way that he did so that our paths could cross. And one of the things I wanted to share is that this business is so great because we really are one team, one mission. We get to partner with people like you guys who we don't get paid on you or vice versa, but we want to see each other succeed. And that's really rare. I know in the corporate world, you know, you wouldn't want your competitors, so to speak, to succeed, or, you know, someone selling the same thing. But this is so different because of our business model and the tried and proven system. So, and I love that you guys said you only knew 2 people, because I hear that all the time. You know, I've talked to everyone I know, and I'm like, well, there's people you don't know who might be the perfect person to love this and grow with it. There's a lot of people in my business now that I didn't know until I was already in the business. And, you know, they are some of my closest friends now, which is part of the cool thing. You get to build deep friendships through the business.
I want to say hi to one more person I know, Nicole Fletcher. Hi, Nicole.
Sure. Well, great. Well, does anyone have questions for Mick or Jenny about their story, or maybe just a burning question about when Juice Plus started, or anything in between? Because they've got a lot of wisdom. We won't keep them very long, but if you have a question, please don't be shy.
Maybe I can leave you with one final thought. You know, back in the early days, we were told that if you want to be a national marketing director, you will go to conference. Not everybody who goes to conference becomes a national marketing director, but all national marketing directors go to conference. Now, back then, we didn't have boot camps. We had, I think, 3 conferences a year back then. These days, we have 2. But we encourage our team these days, commit, if you're serious, this is somebody who's looking to build a serious business, every year commit to at least a minimum of 1 conference and 1 boot camp every year. Because honestly, the power of events, that's what's going to keep you in the business. You're not in this business alone, you're part of a team. And, you know, it's like going to church. You need to go every week just to stay where you need to be. So I know we have a fabulous conference coming up, not till April, but it'll be here before you know it. So we look forward to meeting many of you in Phoenix in April.
Yes, that's so perfect, because next week we're going to be talking about all the boot camps and conferences and fun stuff to come for 2018. And you're right. That's the thing that I heard is, you know, if you know, Kurt told me all NMDs go to conference. If you want to be an NMD and you want this life of freedom, then, you know, you might have to make some sacrifices right now, but it'll be worth it in the end. And what he shared with me is if you can do for a couple of years what nobody else will, then you can do for the rest of your life what nobody else can. And you guys are a great testament to that. So thank you so much for joining us. We're so grateful for both of you and your time. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Come to Texas. You're welcome.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Brian. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.